Welcome into this live edition of the Ravens Rundown by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, we are going to be talking about Todd Monken being hired as the new offensive coordinator for your Baltimore Ravens. Also got some juicy quarterback rumors, those involving Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, as well as Tua. We'll also look at potential trade candidates for your Baltimore Ravens. And we will have a live news and rumors mailbag coming up later on as well. Use hashtag Ravens or Super Chat to get on the mailbag that we'll be bringing you here later on. If you Super Chat, then you get to the front of the line and more likely to get your question on the show. Chat already popping, it would appear, as you guys file in. Go ahead and shout out your city. Tell us where you're watching from, and we will get you on today's show. You tell us where you're watching us from. We would love to hear from you guys. Myself, producer Sam Brown, in the house today. We're coming at you from the Chat Sports Studios in Dallas, Texas, here on this Tuesday afternoon. A very eventful one for your Baltimore Ravens as they have found their guy in Todd Monken. I told you a long time ago, I think it was all the way back in November, that I wanted to see Todd Monken hired as the Ravens OC. Previously, was the Georgia Bulldogs offensive coordinator for back-to-back national titles. Spent a couple seasons in the NFL with the Bucs and the Browns. Also was in the college level previously at Oklahoma State and Southern Miss, just to name a few. And now he's making his way to Baltimore. We'll talk plenty about that. But I see William is checking in from Liverpool. And I see Jacob and William are asking me to give them the wave. I do not like the wave at all, but since there's been multiple requests, here you go. There's the wave, I guess. There's my effort at giving the wave today. That's enough of the wave for now and forever, as far as I'm concerned. But nonetheless, we got J-Boy checking in from Baltimore as well. Shout out your city. Let us know where you are watching from today, and we'll get you on the show. Great, the hire of Todd Monken. I give it an A+. You can probably figure out why. Two-time national champion OC with NFL experience, and the thing that I like best about Todd Monken is that he's always played to the strengths of his roster, whether it's been in the NFL or college. And you look at this Ravens team, I think that he's going to adapt accordingly, and that he's going to get the most out of this Ravens offense. I give it an A. What say you guys? Let us know in the chat. We'll shout you guys out what you think of this hire, graded A, B, C, D, or F. I see BJ is checking in from Carroll County. Thank you, BJ, for joining us and being here this afternoon. Let us know where you guys are watching from, what you would grade the hire of Todd Monken. And there's Jacob using the hashtag Ravens. He'll be on the mailbag later. Use that hashtag or Super Chat. We'll get you on that mailbag coming up in just a bit. Producer Sam Brown in the house making his official Ravens Rundown debut today. Sam, you and I have been working together for what, about 11 months now, almost a year. I think this is the first time you and I have been like on a live show together ever in that stretch. So I'm glad that we can finally see face-to-face to the people out there.
You know, it's a privilege and an honor, and I think you're right. Yeah, however long that you've been here, because I've been here longer, but it's been a long ride. We've done plenty of videos together. We've
Yes.
maybe even done a little bit of a watch party here and there. But no, this is the first live show. I'm excited to be on board.
Yeah, so glad to be here. Myself, Sam Brown. In these live shows, we're going to typically do about every other week. Myself and Matthew Peterson, our Broncos host, we're kind of rotate weeks based on the way the schedule worked out. We ended up doing Ravens back-to-back weeks. So, but the more that we gain subscribers and keep this thing going, the more we can do live shows like you're seeing right now. So far, unanimous in the chat. Josh, Taji, William, Jonathan, Brandon, they all say A. April says A. And we got more people requesting the wave. They want to see it from Sam.
Like the wave?
The wave, I think is what they're asking for. Here we go.
Hey,
there it is.
There we go.
Is this going to be the theme of the Ravens rundown, or is it going to be people asking for the wave?
It's
I did
too
not
early
have
to
that.
have the wave be the theme for us.
Right, this is week 2, and we got people wanting the wave to be the theme of this. I don't know about that. That might have to be a Super Chat item in the future. You might have to pay for the wave.
Give it time.
Going forward. We'll see. If you guys like the wave enough, we might have to do that in the future. Adam says A+. Now, hopefully, Monken can help Harbaugh and DeCosta draft and develop the right type of wide receivers. Hopefully so. Jay Boy says A. Yaz says A. William, responding to your wave, says, yes, dude. I like that. So far, it seems like a happy day among the flock as far as this hiring goes. Everybody is in unanimous agreement that this is a great hire from the Baltimore Ravens to go with Todd Monken. It almost feels weird, like this feels like a trick of some sorts when everyone's in agreement like this.
It always feels like a dream whenever your team does something good. You're like, man, this can't be right.
Right? And everybody liked it. This is very strange, not going to lie. Lamar Jackson, will he be the starter for the Baltimore Ravens week 1? We are going to talk about where things stand with contract negotiations, but also we got some juicy rumors, courtesy of The Athletic today, of some other potential options the Ravens could turn to at quarterback. Besides Lamar, could they not only draft a quarterback like an Anthony Richardson or a Will Levis, or you got Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, those are kind of the notable ones. But when you look at potential trade or free agent options, Baker Mayfield is somebody the Ravens have spoke very highly of within the organization. He'll be a free agent. Sam and I are big Baker Mayfield fans. And then there's also Tua, the Dolphins quarterback. Tua Tagovailoa is potentially an option. We know that the Dolphins have the connection of Lamar being from Miami. Maybe you could do a big blockbuster trade potentially. The Athletic brought the possibility of sending Lamar to Miami and bringing Tua back to Baltimore. So we'll dive in and see what happens there. Also, Derek Carr, now officially a free agent, but we don't want to be messing with Derek Carr. Every time Derek Carr cashes a paycheck, he's stealing money. So no thanks. Don't want Derek Carr in Baltimore as far as I'm concerned. Will Lamar be the week 1 starter? Jonathan says yes. Raven Swin says no. BJ says M. I hope, but probably yes. So yes. Okay. Raven Swin, no. Brandon says yes. It's Irish Dave says hello. Hello, Irish Dave. I think we got a bit of an international audience here. We got Irish Dave. We got William checking in from Liverpool. Sam, you were born in France, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Moved to Texas when I was only like 4 months old, so I don't know if you count me living in France. But
it counts.
My mom's side of the family's from there, and yeah, I'm a Texan French.
Okay, so
it's the melting pot, if you will.
Yes, so Sam is representing our international flock here today, as we have quite a bit, it seems, already. Got a question for me that you want answered on our mailbag? Well, use the hashtag Ravens, and you can get on our mailbag show. You can also skip the line, get your question asked first by super chatting this show. We have the $sign that is in the chat box. If you click that, then you can super chat, and you will get to the front of the line, and we'll shout you out and all that stuff. And that is the only way you can make sure, guarantee, that your mailbag question makes it on today's show. Irish Dave is actually in Baltimore now, not in Ireland. Okay. Well, it was nice. Well, it lasted. International flock, says William Wilcox. I like that. How tired are you of the Lamar rumors? I know we're going to dive into them today, but I understand if it might be a little old. And here's the deal. I said this a week or two ago, and I will reiterate, and I think Sam will back me up on this too. Until we have a firm answer, one way or the other, of what's going to happen, whether it is a trade or it's a long-term deal, we have to look at every possibility until we know what's going to happen, until it gets figured out. It is our job, it is our due diligence to weigh every single scenario until there is a solution.
You know, this time last offseason, one of my main channels that I was helping make content for was our Seahawks channel.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that channel.
Yeah, and they went through quite an offseason with the Russell Wilson drama.
Right.
And anytime I put Russell Wilson in a show, even any sort of update, oh no, this will never happen. You're an idiot for bringing this up. Shut up already. Don't talk about this. And then it did. So it's a good point that you have to be able to explore every possible option because nothing's off the table in the NFL these days.
Right. And if it's not like that they are just going to straight up tell us Yeah, we're trading him, like the moment you say that, his value goes down.
And it's completely understandable for fans to be tired
Right,
of it.
we understand.
Like, it makes sense, but that can't stop us from bringing you updates, can't stop us from talking about it.
Right.
And it can't stop us from exploring some of those other options in case it happens. We
Right.
hope it doesn't.
Right, but we'll monitor it and see what happens. Everyone in the chat, Jacob, Raven Swin, Irish Dave, William, and a Trav God all say 10. I'm sick of hearing about it. Hey, until we have a solution, we have to do our job, and we'll continue to do our job here on the Ravens Rundown. We're at 16 likes right now. We can do better than that, guys. I mean, we got to at least get to. We got 34 people watching right now. I need 20 likes. Who are going to be my 4 out there? When we get to 20, we can officially get this thing started. All that you heard just now, the back and forth between Sam and I, that was just our build-up portion of the show. That wasn't the bread and butter. That was just the appetizer, okay?
That was the amuse-bouche, if you will.
Right. So if you want us to officially get this show started, we got to get to 20 likes. I'm at 17. I need 3 more to get this thing going, and we'll officially get started here. 3 more likes away. Let's see who can get the job done. Like the video, and we'll officially get going here on Ravens Rundown today. Coming up next, the latest Ravens news and rumors. We're going to talk about some possible quarterback options for the Ravens. Who could they potentially look at besides just Lamar Jackson in that situation? We'll dissect all of that. Also, some trade candidates. Who are some players that the Ravens could be shopping potentially to look for trade value or to potentially cut some salary at? Who are some of those guys? We'll discuss all of that. Also, we have a live Q&A rumors mailbag. If you want to be a part of the mailbag, use the hashtag Ravens or Super Chat to get to the front of the line, and we will get you on the show. I am 2 likes away. Who are my 2 people that are going to like the show, and so we can officially get this thing started? We're 1 away now. I need 1 more. I'm going to put this in the chat right now. Once we get to that magic number, that 20, we'll officially start today's show with the latest Baltimore Ravens news and rumors. BJ, I'm seeing 19 in my end. I'm needing 1 more, BJ. You say we have 20. I haven't seen it update on my screen yet, so I need 1 more to get this thing started. We're going to be talking quarterbacks here in just a second. Got trade candidates, also mailbag coming up at the end as well. There we go. We hit the number? We did. Okay. All right, good work, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started here on the Ravens Rundown here on this Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for spending it with us here on the channel. Welcome in to the Ravens Rundown, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. Coming up on today's show, we have the latest Baltimore Ravens news and rumors. We're going to be talking about some quarterbacks. Besides just Lamar Jackson, we've heard reports of a couple other names that the Ravens could potentially be interested in if Jackson does not return in 2023. We'll also let you hear from GM Eric DeCosta about his plan for this offseason and the team that they're building going forward. We'll dive into all of that and more in just a few moments. Before we do, folks, I'm very curious. The Ravens, their history goes all the way back to 1996. It's been a very good run for the Baltimore Ravens in that stretch, but I want to hear from you for as long as you've been a Ravens fan, whether it's been a day or for the entirety of this franchise. I don't care. Who is your favorite Ravens player of all time? Who comes to mind? Who is your favorite player to ever wear the Ravens uniform? Let me know in the comment section below. Give them a shout out, show them some love, and we'll get started with today's show. Baker Mayfield to Baltimore? Yes, that could be possible. The Athletic put out a report this week that the idea of Mayfield to the Ravens would not be a surprise. Wouldn't it be quick to dismiss the idea of signing Mayfield? Now, remember, Baker Mayfield obviously started his career as the number 1 overall pick, same draft class as Lamar Jackson, went number 1 overall to Cleveland. Then they decide to bring in Deshaun Watson. He ends up in Carolina. Things don't quite work out in Carolina. He then gets released, goes to the LA Rams, and had a really good finish to this year, his 5th year in the league. Now he's an unrestricted free agent. With questions about Lamar's future, could they turn to Baker? Well, here's what The Athletic had to say, I'd fully expect Mayfield to sign somewhere that gives him the best opportunity to be the Week 1 starter. Maybe that's staying with the Rams, where there are questions about Matthew Stafford's health. But if there's not a decent starting opportunity available to him, the Ravens would represent a soft landing spot. It's well documented the Ravens like Mayfield coming out of the draft. He had a good relationship with Jackson, and he's close with tight end Mark Andrews. Ravens decision makers have always liked and respected Mayfield. When the Ravens faced Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers in 2022, Steve jogged to the Panthers' side of the field to hug Mayfield in the pregame warmup. So here's what I look at with Baker Mayfield. Okay, let me put this simply for you. I have always been a Baker Mayfield fan. I respect the hell out of him. I know there's been some up and downs. But I think Baker is a good insurance policy. I don't know, and even for me, somebody that loves Baker, I don't know at this point if Baker can ever be a franchise quarterback, but he can be a placeholder or he can be a really good backup of some sorts. And there might be room to make this work in Baltimore potentially in some scenario. You look at the numbers, what he did in Cleveland. It was up and down, sure, but he was able to do things that franchise had never seen, taking them to the postseason, getting a playoff win, going from winless to breaking down the beer cave and unleashing all the Bud Lights in Cleveland. It was an interesting run for Baker for sure. And you look at what happened this year when he started with the Carolina Panthers. Things did not go that great with a completion percentage of less than 58%, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He was just simply off. But then when he ended up with the LA Rams and you paired him with Sean McVay, that was a really good duo. In particular, what he did in that Denver game on Christmas Day was just outstanding. We know about the Raiders game when he led the 98-yard comeback drive on Thursday Night Football. That was a good run for Baker Mayfield. So I'll say this. For the Ravens, whether they move on from Lamar Jackson or they bring him back and potentially Baker as the backup, whatever it may be, I am all ears. I'm open to the possibility of Baker Mayfield. But what I'm not open to is saying, you know what, we're going to move on from Lamar, and this is going to be the guy to lead the franchise forward after that. To me, this is an insurance policy. This is not a long-term life insurance policy, if that makes sense. So, with that, what about Baker Mayfield? You like the idea of bringing him to the Baltimore Ravens this offseason? If you do, type Y for yes. If not, type in for no. Let me know in the comment section, Y for yes, in for no, about the possibility of bringing Baker Mayfield to the Ravens. Let's keep talking quarterbacks now. Also, in the same article with The Athletic, there is speculation about Tua being involved in a trade with Lamar, the Miami Dolphins quarterback. Now, you guys, I'm sure, already know about Lamar, of course, his connections to the city of Miami. And then Tua you have as a very young quarterback that's shown promise at times here. Could there be a blockbuster deal potentially here? Well, here's what an anonymous executive had to say to The Athletic about this possibility. It's hard to build an offense around Lamar. You can certainly do it, but a place like the Jets, is that the best fit for what Nathaniel Hackett wants to do? Mike McDaniel probably would do great with Lamar. Maybe Lamar for Tua trade makes sense. Maybe Atlanta would make sense for Lamar and Arthur Smith. But I think Baltimore tags him and holds on to him, is what the anonymous executive had to say. Now, we will dive into all of that in just a second and kind of dissect the numbers on this here. But first, here's what we're offering here. A great deal for Ravens fans. We have these awesome jerseys. And look, you may be somebody that loves the current era of Baltimore Ravens players like Lamar Jackson or Mark Andrews or others. But you know what? We take care of some of your favorite old-time players, too, like Ray Lewis and company. We got Marcus Williams. All these guys are represented, and we have the different colors, whether it's the purple, the gold, the black. Doesn't matter your shape and size, whatever it may be. We got you covered, and it's a great deal now. Get yours while supplies last. Look, it's summertime is coming around the corner. Currently, right now, we're in the colder months, but you'll want to be getting your jersey so you're prepared when football season rolls around next year. Get your jersey now. Chatsports.com/Ravens jersey. Get yours today. Now, here's what I look at, though, with Tua. I give Tua a lot of credit. I think he is a talented quarterback. But if the Dolphins are at a point where they are done with Tua, where they say, you know what, enough is enough, we're ready to move on from our young quarterback, that to me is a sign that everyone else should be done too. Because when it comes to talent, what he's done on the field, what we saw this past season is the talent is not the issue with Tua. He can win football games and he can play at a high level, but it's the health matter. And if the Dolphins are at a point where they're saying to themselves, yeah, we don't want to invest in Tua because we don't believe in him, to me that reflects the health. That should be a red flag and should be alarming for the rest of the entire NFL as far as that goes when it comes to Tua on that front. So for me, that's why I would say no on a potential trade. The biggest reason, not even about Lamar, but because of Tua, you can see that the statistics are fine. Statistics are good with Tua. He had a very good year this past year. But if Miami says no, that means they're saying the health concerns are too much, and that should alarm everyone else in the National Football League as far as I'm concerned. Pick a quarterback. Which one would you rather have? If all things are equal here and you can pick one or the other, are you going with Lamar Jackson or are you going with Tua Tagovailoa? Which one would you pick? If it's Lamar Jackson, type 8 for Lamar. If it's Tua, type 1 for Tua. Let me know in the comment section which quarterback would you rather have. Would you rather roll with Lamar? Would you rather roll with Tua? Type 8 for Lamar, 1 for Tua. Folks, you got to subscribe to the channel. We are covering this team each and every day with the latest happenings on your favorite team. If you love the Baltimore Ravens, if you want more Ravens coverage, this is the place to be for the flock. We're doing live shows now here on the channel for the very first time. We also are counting down the days to the draft, free agency, trades, and more. If you love your Baltimore Ravens, you got to subscribe. It doesn't cost you a thing. We are getting so close to 9,000 subscribers. When we get to 9,000 subscribers, I'm going to take 9 shots on the show just for the flock out there because you know what? I feel like doing that because you guys absolutely deserve it. So subscribe now. It doesn't cost you a thing. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a moment. All right, one final note before we go. Eric DeCosta, the Ravens general manager, spoke this week about the team's goals for the offseason, and it was pretty telling. In fact, inspiring to hear what Eric DeCosta had to say. Our goal is to be really competitive. Strong team every single year. And John Harbaugh jokes with me all the time. He doesn't really have any interest at this stage of his coaching career being in a total rebuild and what that entails. And I really don't either. Our goal is to always have that window open when we can compete to win the whole thing. So I think we've made a lot of good decisions with the cap over the last 4 years. I agree. I think they've made some very good decisions. They have laid the groundwork. I think this team is very close to achieving what they want in being one of those teams. I don't think when you look at this Ravens team that they are very far off from the other elite teams in the AFC, of the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Bills. They are just a couple of players away. Even when you factor in the quarterback position, whoever is at quarterback, Baltimore has the pieces to stay in contention for a title. If they have to go to insurance policy Baker Mayfield next year, or if they were to bring in Tua, this team still has ways and reason that they compete with everything else they've done. Now, you still obviously have to add in some pieces when it comes to the receiving core and fix a few things here and there, but this team is a lot closer to the top than they are the bottom as far as I'm concerned. I like the direction of this franchise. Love the decisions that DeCosta and Harbaugh have made. Now let's see them build upon that and have a big offseason and try to get this team to that next level, that next echelon that we're talking about. So before we go, scale it for me 1 through 10. Confidence level of the Ravens getting this offseason right, of giving this team what they need to do to take that next step, to join the elites of the National Football League. How confident are you that the Ravens are going to pull it off? Let me know in the comment section. Scale it for me 1 through 10, and I'll see you next time right here on the Ravens Rundown. Okay, so that is one segment in the books. Let's go ahead and give some shout-outs. Who's checking in the chat? As we see, William says, thanks for being my number one place for Ravens news, dude, and for being a good sport. Hey, I appreciate that, William. We love doing this, and I'm excited to see what we're doing with this channel and continue to grow this thing here for a long time. Jacob is checking in. I see Ravens Swin is here. Steven, Brandon, Dennis, BJ. Dennis says, congratulations on the new live podcast. Hey, I love that we're getting to do this and that we're going to be with you guys and interact with you in real time, and hopefully we get to do more of these. The more we grow, the more we can do this going forward. Today is Valentine's Day. Folks, I got to tell you, Valentine's Day is not a real holiday. It's a scam made by Hallmark to sell cards and by Russell Stovers to sell chocolates. If you took off work today for Valentine's Day, you are a simp. I mean, plain and simple. Valentine's Day, there's no need for Valentine's Day. You should be able to celebrate your significant other any day of the week, as far as I'm concerned. Is Valentine's Day a real holiday? What say you guys? Y for yes, in for no. Producer Sam is here with me. Sam, what do you think of Valentine's Day? Is it a fraud holiday?
It's a stupid holiday. Let's be real. It's an excuse. It's an excuse for people to spend their money.
Yes.
And to be fair, I haven't spent $1 on Valentine's Day on the actual holiday in years. So, where I'm able to complain, I'm not really sure. But at the same time, I've been staying off social media today because I looked and literally everybody's Instagram story was a picture of their
every single one.
Maybe it's cynical of me, but Valentine's Day is just an excuse of you to just be like, look how happy I am. Don't you feel great how happy I am? I'm so happy.
Is Valentine's Day a real holiday? Dennis, Lotus, and Inboy say no. William says no. Jacob says yes, no offense. Well, okay. At least you said no offense. You can say anything you want as long as you say no offense. That's what Ricky Bobby once said. Is Valentine's Day a real holiday? Dennis says, thank you. Keep up the good content. Thank you, Dennis, for your support and joining us here on the Ravens Rundown. Mailbag coming up in just a moment. You may be wondering, how do I get involved in the mailbag show? We are taking your questions using the hashtag Ravens, or you can super chat. That is how you get on the mailbag. And so when producer Sam is going through all these questions, it makes his life a whole lot easier if you use the hashtag Ravens or if you super chat, and then he can sort through the questions and get everything on screen.
So far, we've got a grand total of 4 questions.
We got 4 questions.
4 or 5 questions.
We need more questions.
Let's get some more questions in.
More questions, hashtag Ravens, and there's no limit on how many questions you can send in. I mean, you guys, even if you're somebody that's already sent in a couple, keep sending them more away, and we'll get those on our mailbag, which will begin here in just a few moments from right now. So let's see. There we go. William got it right. Hashtag Ravens, wanting us to do the wave again. Jacob says, I wanted to super chat, but my mom did not let me. Okay, well. Don't get in trouble with mom. If mom's not happy, nobody's happy, as far as that goes. William, there we go. See, everyone watching right now, be like William. Use that hashtag Ravens or Super Chat, and you get on the mailbag show coming up in just a few moments from right now. All right, Sam, we all good? Yeah. Let's get going. This mailbag time here on the Ravens Rundown. It is time for another award-winning mailbag edition of the Ravens Rundown. Tyler Jones, your fearless leader, here with you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us. We will take your questions, and we will answer them. And you can use the hashtag Ravens or Super Chat to get on the said mailbag. This comes from our live shows that we're doing here on the channel now. And if you subscribe, then you'll know when we go live. We're going live about every other week or so. And so stay plugged away, turn on notifications so you never miss a moment, and join us for our weekly mailbags here on the Ravens Rundown. Let's go ahead and get started. Our first question in the inbox this week comes from Jacob. Do you think if Lamar gets traded, to trade up to maybe get Will Levis? So what Jacob's asking is, if Lamar's gone, is there a situation where the Ravens end up moving on up with trade capital to get Will Levis? I think anything is on the table at this point. until we have a solution as far as Lamar Jackson's future goes, anything is on the table until there's an answer one way or the other. Personally, I'm not a fan of Anthony Richardson. Will Levis is not my favorite, but I do like Will Levis a lot better than I do Anthony Richardson. I like Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud a lot more. To me, I look at this. If you are going to move on from Lamar Jackson, then you might as well just go ahead and reset the clock on the rookie quarterback scale and save some money while you're at it, invest in a young guy, and then try to do everything from there at that point. To me, Will Levis could be an option potentially, but we still got to see what the answer is with Lamar Jackson. I think that's certainly possible. Good Boy says, Tyler, you told us a long time ago that the Ravens' number one offensive coordinator target should be Todd Monken. How does it feel that they listen to you, and how are you so right all the time? Well, Good Boy 24, that's a great question. It's hard being right all the time, but you know what? Somebody's got to do it. Todd Monken, great choice to be the new offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. Comes over from the Georgia Bulldogs, where he won 2 national titles as OC, has previous experience in the NFL with the Cleveland Browns and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as an offensive coordinator there. We saw him in the college ranks previously with Southern Miss as well as Oklahoma State. And I have followed Todd Monken closely for a very long time. And the thing that I've noticed about Todd over the years is you go back to the Oklahoma State days, and they were a run-and-gun team. They threw the football a whole lot. They were scoring and moving the football as quickly as possible. Fast forward to 2022, this Georgia offense, which got Stetson Bennett, of all people, to be looking good, turned him into a Heisman finalist, which is, a hell of a coaching job in its own right. That offense that they ran was totally different than what he did at Oklahoma State. He adapted to the personnel that he had there. The things you could do with Stetson Bennett, you couldn't necessarily do with Brandon Weeden back in the day. And credit to Todd Monken for adapting and adjusting. I think what Todd Monken is going to do, Greg Roman had a system, and things had to be run the Greg Roman way. It was his way or the highway, or they failed. And they did fall on their face a few times. I think Todd is going to adjust accordingly to what they can get the most out of the Ravens offense, and he'll do a very good job at that. Grade the hire of Todd Monken for me. What do you think of the job that John Harbaugh and company did to bring in Todd Monken to be the new OC? Scale it for me, A, B, C, D, or F in the comments section. I'm going A+, quite frankly. He was number one on my board months ago. Glad the Ravens listen. You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it. Get your votes in. Tell me A, B, C, D, or F grading the hire. BJ writes, if Lamar does stay for the 2023 through 2024 season, will he be out for half the season / postseason? I think we're talking about the injury, right, with that BJ is referring to. I think Lamar, it seems like we haven't heard anything that he is going to be held back of some sort. It seems like all signs point to that Lamar should be able to take the offseason to recover from said injury. Now, will he re-injure it or deal with another injury? That remains to be seen. But everything seems like Lamar should be A-OK, ready to go next season as far as I'm concerned. But very good point, PJ, for sure. Dennis writes, do you think we can land Mike Evans now that we have Todd Monken as offensive coordinator? Dennis, very good question. That certainly could be possible. I think that there's about 3 or 4 guys on the potential wide receiver trade market that should all have the Ravens' interest. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin there in Tampa Bay. And then you also are going to look at DeAndre Hopkins in Arizona. He is going to be another option there as well. Those are some of the few names that I would think of. And I think if you're the Baltimore Ravens, you would be happy to have any of those guys as far as I'm concerned. You'd like to make a move potentially and see what you could bring in as far as that goes. To me, all of that, if DeCosta and company say we want to throw the football and we want to get better receivers in, then yeah, that certainly increases the chances for Mike Evans there. William writes in, who's your favorite player? William checking in from Liverpool, and I'm sure he wants me to give him the wave, so here you go, even though I hate the wave. But there you go, William. Who is your favorite player? And I love that he spelled this with the English way of spelling favorite with the OU. I speak American, quite frankly, and usually don't spell it that way. But nonetheless, William, my favorite player on this Ravens team, I got to go. I know this might be a cop-out answer, but for me, I'll do offense and defense, so I don't look like a cop-out answer. I love what Roquan Smith did for this Ravens team on defense, the way that he came in and brought such a force and an impact. He looked like an old-school Ravens player that we would have seen back in the day in that 2000s defense that won the Super Bowl and some of those things. He feels like what we think of Baltimore Ravens greats defensively. Offensively, for me, it's Mark Andrews. I have loved Mark Andrews since he was at the University of Oklahoma, and Mark Andrews, for me, is got everything you could want in a tight end. And if the Ravens renew their commitment to the passing game, if Todd Monken can figure this out, I think we're looking at Mark Andrews potentially having the best year of his career this upcoming season. If he stays healthy, they figure out the passing attack like they should, watch out for Mark Andrews to have a big year. Those are my two favorite guys. Speaking of Mark Andrews, we got Mandrews in the chat. Mandrews for president, El Presidente. Any chance Baltimore could be interested in signing Jimmy G in free agency? So earlier this week, we did a video talking about that there was potential interest in Baltimore in Baker Mayfield, that was a possibility. And it feels like ever since last offseason, you can't talk about Baker Mayfield without talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. And so if Lamar moves on, if they do trade him, then all options are off the table. Jimmy G could be a guy. Baker Mayfield could be a guy. I hope it's not Derek Carr, but he could be an option potentially. There's a number of names. Nothing is not on the table. I prefer to go with a young quarterback to draft somebody if Lamar is gone and do things that way, but Jimmy G could be possible. We'll see. Jimmy G's been a winner. Say what you want about Jimmy G, but he's won a lot of football games over the years. Should the Ravens sign Jimmy G? What do you think about the idea of bringing James Garoppolo to the Baltimore Ravens? If you like that idea, type S for sign. If you don't like that idea, type P for pass. Let me know what you think. S for sign, P for pass on the idea of Jimmy Garoppolo joining the Ravens. BJ, we got a Madden question in. I think it's supposed to be is Madden 23 overrated, yes or no? I do love to play some football video games from time to time. In particular, I still play NCAA 14. Madden has sucked for, a decade now. Madden's been terrible. And it's a real shame because Madden has the potential. It should be a great video game, but it's not. Madden has been a disappointment for a long time. I would love for Madden to be good again. I am on a moratorium where I am not buying a new game system, a Xbox, what's the new Xbox called? Is it the Xbox One now or whatever the new one is? And the PS5 until either Madden gets fixed or there's a new college football video game that's out. And so far, I'm waiting quite a bit for either one. Al writes, if Lamar is traded, what should the Ravens do at quarterback? Great question. I prefer to go young. I would prefer to go draft one of those top three quarterbacks, whether it be a Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, or Will Levis. That's my order of preference. But beyond that, if it's not one of those three guys, then you look at veterans, Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo, some placeholder of some sorts, and then you find your quarterback next year. Think about this, too, as far as next year goes. Again, this is all if Lamar is gone. Next year's draft class of quarterbacks looks fantastic. Caleb Williams is going to be a star. Drake May looks great. You got Quinn Ewers potentially next year's draft. Look out. There's some good options next year as well. You don't even necessarily have to get the quarterback this year if Lamar's gone. You could wait till next year, too. Who will be the Ravens starting quarterback week one? Will it be Lamar Jackson? Will it be somebody else? Who is going to be the starter for the Ravens when the season begins in 2023? Let me know in the comments section below. Drippy writes, how do you feel if the Ravens draft Jordan Addison? I would love drafting Jordan Addison. The top three receivers in this draft, you got Jordan Addison, you got Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then you also have Quentin Johnston from TCU. I like all three receivers myself. I think if you pull off any of those three, you're feeling pretty good. I like Johnston, Smith and Jigba, and Addison in that order, but I don't feel like you're pissed off. You're like, man, we ended up with Addison. We didn't get one of the two. I don't think you're mad about that. If that's the way the cookie crumbles, so be it. I think you're doing just fine if you grab any of those three. But Jordan Addison, I think, has potential to be a really good football player in the National Football League, as do the other two receivers. Other than a wide receiver, what do you think the Ravens need? Very good question when you look at this Ravens team and what they need. I think you're looking at the interior of the offensive line, the guard spots in particular. I think they should bring back Ben Powers, but they might not have the money to bring back Ben Powers. You look at the defensive side of the ball, you need help at edge rusher. You got some older guys there. Defensive line, I know that it looks like Calais Campbell is coming back, but wouldn't it hurt to find some younger guys there? And then the cornerback position. Marcus Peters probably not coming back. Probably need to find another cornerback there to bring in potentially as far as that goes. So we'll see what they do there. But to me, this team's not far off. They're a couple players away from being right there among the best in the AFC. Dennis writes, should we draft Georgia quarterback in the late rounds? This is going to be something that I think comes up for quite a bit with Todd Monken now getting the OC job. Should they draft Stetson Bennett? No, and no. Stetson Bennett is not an NFL quarterback. I'm sorry. I would not waste my time on Stetson Bennett. I am not interested in Stetson Bennett. He accomplished a lot in college, but he way overachieved as far as I'm concerned. Stetson Bennett's going to have a nice life, on a country club and enjoying things like that, but he's not an NFL quarterback. I'm sorry, no. I would not want Stetson Bennett on my team. Sorry, it's just not there. Brandon writes, do you think the Ravens should trade Justin Matabuke because he only had 5.5 in quarterback tackles? I think he means sacks. Potentially, and that's something that we got a trade video out on the channel this week, and he's a name that we've discussed. We'll go over that. If you haven't looked at that, check it out on the channel if you would. But, folks, appreciate you joining us. Make sure to subscribe. We're talking about your Baltimore Ravens all the time. We're growing. We're getting so close to 9,000 subscribers here on the Ravens Rundown. I've said when we get to 9,000, I'm going to take 9 shots on this show. That's what we're going to do. But we need to get there first. And we are growing rapidly. The more we grow, the more live shows we can do. We can talk about trades, free agency, draft, all of that right here on the channel. Doesn't cost you a thing. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. I'll see you next time here on The Rundown. All right, so that is it for the mailbag. Let me put that sublink in the chat here, too, for you guys. Thank you, Sam, for that. We have a really nice audience today. You guys certainly have showed up today, and it's been awesome to have you here. And so if you're not already subscribed, hit that sub button. That certainly helps us a lot when you guys subscribe, and we could continue to grow this thing. What players should the Ravens consider drafting? The NFL draft coming up in April, just about 2 months away. As of right now, the Ravens have a total of 5 picks, 1 first-round pick at 22. Who should the Ravens consider with those draft picks? For me, I love the receiver spot. I kind of told you earlier, I really like those 3 receivers. Those guys come to mind. But, Sam, you're all over this draft, too. What do you think about the draft and some potential fits for Baltimore here?
I think that beggars can't really be choosers.
Yeah.
And this isn't to discredit any of Baltimore's wide receivers necessarily, but I don't know that you're looking at any of one of those guys outside of Mark Andrews, Boomer Sooner, and looking at one of those and saying that is a surefire number 1 wide receiver for the next 5 years.
Right.
And you need one of those. You need to figure out, what that guy's going to be, regardless of whether he profiles a little bit more of a speedy guy, a little bit more of a route runner, a little bit of a possession receiver. Like I said, I don't think Baltimore can necessarily not be too picky, but if the pick of the litter is out there,
right,
sure, then you go for your best one. But, Justin Jefferson was drafted at 22 just a few years ago. Do you think he was the Vikings' first wide receiver on the board? I think it's unlikely. And so I think you oftentimes are going to find yourself in a spot where you're going to have a player that's talented enough to be that potential player available at the Ravens.
Well, and kind of like what I was talking about just a second ago, Sam, let's just say you sit at 22. If you don't trade up, if Smith and Jigba and Johnston are gone and Addison's your pick, you can't be upset about that.
You're happy with that.
I think you're feeling good.
He's going to be the first wide receiver on other people's boards.
Right.
And at that point in time, if Jackson, Smith, and Jigba and Jordan Addison are both on the board, then you can have that discussion. But I think until you really get to that point, and that's why there's a lot of hypotheticals obviously behind it. Welcome to the NFL draft. But
right.
You can't really say with certainty, this guy, I don't want to draft him at receiver in round 1.
Right.
Because I think those 3 guys in particular are all round 1 players.
Right. I think it's a great point. We are, let's see, the answers. Dennis says wide receiver, edge rusher, cornerback, and interior line. You guys go ahead and weigh in that chat. What players should the Ravens consider drafting? Next up, our final segment, we're going to talk about trade candidates. Who could the Ravens be potentially moving on from this offseason, whether it's to create salary cap space or acquire some draft capital? What could be some players to move around potentially? We'll dissect all of that in just a few moments from right now, right here on the Ravens Rundown. That's next here on the channel. Sam, we all set? We good to go?
Let's roll.
All right, let me get my clock ready, and I am good. Here we go. Final segment today. It is time for the Ravens Rundown, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. Thanks for making us a part of your day. On the show, we will be discussing potential trade candidates for the Ravens. Who are some guys they could be moving on from this offseason, whether it's to save salary cap space, calories too, or whether it's to acquire some draft capital? What are some guys that could be on the chopping block? We'll discuss all of that and more coming up in just a few moments from right now. Before we do, somebody's got to go. Here's your chance to be critical. Before I reveal my list, give me your list. Name a player the Ravens should trade. Who should they move on from? Let me know in the comments section below. Now, I have 5 players that we're looking at of guys that the Ravens could move on. And for the most part, it's salary-based. Others, it has to do with kind of over need, trying to move on from and get something out of. So just keep that in mind as we go through the criteria of sorts for these names that we look at today. Let's start with Chuck Clark. This feels like the obvious one. And it's been a long time coming that we've talked about Chuck Clark and his name coming up as a trade candidate that the Ravens could move on from. Chuck Clark, remember, this is a guy that has already been replaced. You have Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams, Geno Stone there. They are overloaded at the safety position. Chuck Clark's a fine football player, but there's just not space on this roster for him. Sure, he had a solid year last year. 101 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. This is nothing against Chuck Clark, but you spent such a high pick on Kyle Hamilton. He's got to be your guy. He's got to be the one you roll with at that safety spot. And so this is a situation where you find yourself saying that, hey, you got to trade Chuck Clark now to get something out of him while you can, while there's still value there. The safety position is really good for Baltimore. I think it's the best safety room in the NFL. Nothing against Chuck Clark, but there's just not room for Chuck Clark. I think the Ravens are going to trade him and move on, try to get what they can for him there. What say you? Will the Ravens trade Chuck Clark? Will he survive another offseason? Everybody thought he was getting traded last offseason, and he still ended up back in Baltimore. What do you think is going to happen? Will the Ravens trade Chuck Clark? Let me know in the comment section. Y for yes, in for no. Number 2 on our list is Justin Madubuike, the edge rusher for the Baltimore Ravens. And you look at Justin this past season, he had some career highs. Granted, 5.5 sacks, 9 QB hits, 8 tackles for loss, 42 tackles. That was good, but it was still underwhelming. And I think the Ravens are looking for more when it comes to the edge rushers. Granted, beyond Justin. A lot of their other guys are older. And so I think you could be moving on from him with the hopes of drafting younger at the position or trying to find a better veteran of some sorts. To me, it's just been kind of underwhelming what you've seen from Justin. This is one that makes sense potentially to move on from, unless you believe that he still has another step he could take up. Personally, though, I think that he's probably reached his ceiling. Another guy that has probably reached his ceiling, it's been underwhelming, is Devin Duvernay. And we know that Devin Duvernay can play in the special teams game and that he can be a good return man. But think about this. This Baltimore Ravens team, they were down bad at the receiver position this year with Rashad Bateman going down and trying to find any help they could. And Devin Duvernay really couldn't answer the call. He had his own injuries too this year. And leading the way, what he put together was just a 400-yard season, 3 touchdowns. I mean, Devin Duvernay could have had an awesome year this year and just did not get the job done. And you look at the statistics for his entire career, 90 catches, 880 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I mean, the numbers that he's had for his entire career, that should have been one season of numbers. It's taken him that long to get to this point. Devin Duvernay, granted, when you're Baltimore, you need any help you can get. But you can do better. You deserve better than Devin Duvernay, quite frankly. I think he's been disappointing. Might be time to move on, see what you can get out of him. Maybe somebody would like him as a return specialist of some sorts. Should Baltimore trade Devin Duvernay, or should they give him one more shot to see if he's worth sticking around? Let us know in the comments section. If you think they should trade him, type T for trade. If not, type P for pass. Let us know in the comment section below. T for trade, P for pass on Devin Duvernay. Folks, you got to subscribe to the channel. We are closing in on 9,000 subscribers. This thing is just rapidly growing here on the channel. It has been so fun to talk about the Baltimore Ravens all the time. We're covering this team like no one else is with daily news and rumors. We also are counting down to the draft, trades, free agency, and more. It's all in one place. If you love the Baltimore Ravens, you want more Ravens content, we're even doing live shows now, then what are you waiting for? Subscribe now for free. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. Next on our list is Gus Edwards. Now, I know what you're thinking. Gus, it was incredible that he was able to get back on the football field this year and have a break back the recovery that he made there. But you look at Gus Edwards, and you have to think, at this point, was that it from Gus Edwards? Is now the chance to trade him while he's at his ceiling before he has the drop-off, before things go down? Is now the chance to trade him and try to get value out of him, try to get something and replace him with another running back, somebody that's younger? Look, J.K. Dobbins was outstanding this past season, in particular, in the last half of the year when we saw him get a lot better. And he clearly established himself as the number one running back. It was kind of split before between Dobbins and Gus. This is JK's team now. Gus Edwards, I think it's a great story. I like Gus. We're all rooting for Gus, but it might be time to move on from Gus Edwards there. Last on the list, and this one might draw some controversy, but Malik Harrison at the linebacker position could be another name to watch potentially. 3 seasons for Malik Harrison. 100 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, no sacks, 1 pass breakup. Malik Harrison just hasn't done what he needs to. And they should have seen more from Malik Harrison as far as that goes. Malik Harrison is somebody that I don't know what the necessarily trade value is, what you can get out there from Malik Harrison, but you might want to see what you can get for him at this point in time and try to upgrade that position. I think you can do better than Malik Harrison. So we'll go back over the list one more time here in a second, but I want to hear from you guys. Who's a player the Ravens should trade for? We've talked about all these players that they should consider trading on and trying to find some draft capital for, but who are some guys that they should trade for, that they should look at? It's going to be a very interesting trade market. We've talked about some of the players that are out there previously here on this show, the Mike Evans, the Chris Godwins, the DeAndre Hopkins of the world. Who comes to mind that you'd like to see the Ravens make a move and add to this roster in 2023? Let me know in the comment section below. So to recap, the trade candidates, Chuck Clark, that was the obvious one. Justin Matabuke, that's another one that I don't think was one that was too surprising. Devin Duvernay, a little underwhelming. Gus Edwards, I know we all like Gus. Gus is a very good football player, but is that kind of it for Gus? And with the injuries, is it time to move on and find another running back? And then Malik Harrison potentially as well. Those are the guys I've zeroed in on as potential trade candidates. We'll see. The Ravens don't have a ton of cap space. They need to save every dollar they can. Remember, you still got to pay Lamar Jackson and then all the rookies you're bringing in as well this draft. So we'll see what the Ravens do. You can interact with me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tyler Jones Live, talking about your Baltimore Ravens there. And I'll see you next time right here on the Ravens Rundown. Okay. What do you guys think? Who is a player the Ravens should trade for? I see Kenneth says Mike Evans or maybe D-Hop. That would be great if you could get either player. And Sam, with both those guys, it's very interesting because they're going to be on the trade market potentially. And it's not a knock on their talent. It has to do with their team situations. Both teams, the Cardinals and the Bucs, are in rebuild mode here.
Yeah, I won't lie. Those two names went completely over my head. Can you repeat them one more time for me?
Oh, Mike Evans.
Relatively uncertain. They're both in the middle. They're both on the fringe. Neither of them are a contender, but neither of them are also going to be the worst team in football next season. So, of the two, I lean DeAndre Hopkins just as a more dynamic threat.
Right.
I think the connection between Tom Brady and Mike Evans was just kind of there from the get-go. But I've always thought Mike Evans just a little bit overrated.
Really?
Just a tiny bit. Just a tiny bit.
I like Chris Godwin more.
Maybe it's the fact that I'm listening to all the people that say that he's underrated and that are trying to show him more love. I'm like, no, I think he's pretty properly rated where he's at. He doesn't have elite breakaway speed, but he can win just about any jump ball.
So Brandon brings up Keenan Allen, and I've seen people talk about Keenan Allen a lot in our comment section the last couple of weeks. I wonder, though, Keenan Allen, he's no spring chicken by any means.
He's not. But he's also, I think if you're talking about durability, him and Mike Evans are relatively even. Keenan Allen had some issues this year and missed some time with a torn ACL about 5 years ago. But from 2017 to 2021, I believe it was, he only missed 3 games total. So a little more durable than you think, a tough guy who will fight through some of that. I like Keenan Allen personally, maybe a little bit more than I like Mike Evans.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that. Let's see. Brandon says, do not trade or let go of Chuck Clark. Joshua says Baltimore is rebuilding in 2024. Hope not. I don't think they are, personally. We'll see.
We don't believe in rebuilds.
We do not believe in rebuilds.
What is that? Let's pull up that DeCosta quote, actually, real quick.
Yeah. I loved what DeCosta had to say. I think if you're a Ravens fan, this is kind of inspiring, actually. Our goal is to be really competitive. Strong team every single year. And John jokes with me all the time. He doesn't really have any interest at this stage of his coaching career being in a total rebuild and what that entails. And I really don't either. Our goal is to always have that window open. We can compete to win the whole thing. So I think we've made a lot of good decisions with the cap over the last 4 years. DeCosta, I think you're absolutely right about that. I think that when you look at this Ravens team, they are closer to the top than they are the bottom. You make a couple changes, watch out. I don't think that they're very far off from the Chiefs, who just won the Super Bowl, might I add you. The Bengals, the Bills, they're closer to those three than they are the bottom of the league. So I do not think a rebuild is on. I think the Ravens are going to do what they can to compete for this season and beyond.
Let's see what the people have to say.
What do the people have to say, though? Are the Ravens about to rebuild? Is this a team that's about to tear it all down? Is Eric DeCosta lying to us? What do you guys think? Y for yes, in for no. Are the Ravens in rebuild mode? I think it's no. Sam says it's no. What say you guys?
They don't have rebuilding vibes in Baltimore. Like
they have very much 5 draft picks.
If it's a reload, then it's a mild reload at best because they have plenty of pieces to be able to compete in the AFC.
You have 5 draft picks right now. You're not rebuilding. Let's see. BJ, Blake, In City says no. Junior says no. Dennis says we need a big body wide receiver. No. Brandon's right. Reload. BJ says no because that's not going to happen. The Ravens aren't good enough. Brandon says no. Let's see, Junior says no. So very interactive. Audience today was awesome. We had over 100. This has been a large audience today. You guys were awesome. We want to do more of these live shows, but we need your help to be able to do more of these live shows. So we'll put the sub link in the chat right now. We are getting close to 9,000 subscribers on the channel. We are, let's see, how close are we? We're about 204 away. When we get to 9,000, I'm going to take 9 shots on the show, just for emphasis, just so we can celebrate and have a good time, because we're built different here at Chat Sports. Sublink is in the chat. Guys, thanks for joining us. Stay tuned to the channel, and we'll see you next time right here on Ravens Rundown. For Sam Brown, I'm Tyler Jones, and have a great day. Thanks for joining us.